All right, well, welcome everybody. Almost good afternoon. But so pleased to see so many familiar and friendly faces here today. My name is Brian Brackemeyer with the Indiana Municipal Power Agency. I've got the honor to kick things off as we are actually celebrating our first ever battery project right here in Richmond, Indiana today. Yes, thank you. This is an important project to us with an unbelievable member and partner here with the City of Richmond. So we thought it'd be appropriate to have a ribbon cutting with all of us here. With that, also enjoy having comments from both IMPA leadership and leadership from the City of Richmond, just to talk about what this project means to IMPA and the city as a whole. After that, have the ability to have some questions and answers about the battery project, how that connects with the solar, and here in the community as well. So without further ado, would like to pass the baton over to someone that's no stranger to Richmond, a born and bred Richmond Red Devil and President and CEO of IMPA, Jack Alvey.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Thanks everybody for coming. When I come back into town, though, I usually have some type of memory that comes back into my mind when I'm driving through. And today I'm coming down 23rd. I came down Reeveston to 23rd. And got to L Street, and there's a shopping cart that was pushed off into the weeds. And when I was in high school, I worked for Cox's Grocery, if you guys remember Cox's. And I was relatively new. I was still a sacker at that point. That's what you did when you first started. You sacked before you were able to go to run an aisle. And I was there, and the two brothers that owned Cox's were Dick and Don Cox. Dick was more of the militant or authoritative leader. Don was more of the laid back, quiet. But Dick said, you get in my car. So we got in his car, and he drove south on 13th because I was working at the 13th Street. And we got all the way down past L Street, and there was a Cox's shopping cart out there. And that was dollars to him. So he said, get out and push that cart back to the store. So I did that, and I was an hourly wage. I don't know what minimum wage was in 1980, but it was a couple dollars maybe. So I took my time pushing it back. It was a nice day, kind of like today. So that's what that was one of them that came to me today. But getting into, I'd like to recognize some people that have come out today, and we do appreciate all of your attendance. We have Mayor Ron Oler from Richmond, and I think he's going to give some remarks. We have City Council, Richmond Power and Light board members represented. Jane Bumbelow's here today. Is Justin here? I don't know if I saw Justin. I don't think Justin's here. Bill Ingles here. Bill. Doug Goss. Larry Parker's here. I talked to Larry. Is Jerry here today? I haven't seen Jerry. Ann Taylor. Ann's not here either. And Dr. Wright. Gary Turner's here. I know I saw Gary today. Thank you guys all for coming today. Also, I think I saw and met some of the representatives from Senator Banks and Young's office that are here today. Thank you for attending our ribbon cutting. So if I missed somebody, I apologize, but we have RP&L staff here. We have Economic Development. Valerie's here today. I think Chamber of Commerce, Melissa's here today too. So really appreciate you guys all coming together for Richmond. IMPA has a long history with Richmond. Richmond was really one of the founding members, with the general manager being part of a group of 2 or 3 that were really the idea but behind IMPA and joint action power supply for the municipals in Indiana. So it started here. IMPA's has a history of investments in Richmond to show that we have the partnership here, but we also make the investment here. Richmond's very important to IMPA, being one of our 2 largest members. But we started out with our combustion turbine site. IMPA didn't own and operate any of their own generation when that was built. That came online in 1992. That's the Gates Road facility that feeds into Richmond. The following following that one, we started doing the solar in 2014. So we had our first pilot, one of our first 3 pilot solar sites that's right next to the Richmond Power and Light service building, and that was our first tracker system. You can see this site has a tracker too, and we eventually went to all tracking systems as that technology came along and the cost came down. Then we would move forward to 2014, and IMPA was able to assume the operation of the Whitewater Valley Station, and that actually helped IMPA's overall power supply for all of our members. It also maintained the employment and the investment in that plant. That's, we're 12 years gone. It's 12 years gone by now. We've put a lot of money into that plant to keep it running, and it does continue to add value to Richmond. So here we are today. We're at this solar park. It's Richmond 5 and Richmond 6. So Richmond 5, we call that Richmond 5 on that side of the site. And then this side of the site is Richmond 6. And when we were doing the solar, we really can only build less than 10 megawatt sites at a time. So we built a site that was 9 point something megawatts on that side. And then we waited a year or two before we were able to build Richmond 6. And then when we were building Richmond 6, we were thinking of, or we were developing Richmond 6 and designing it, we were thinking that, batteries are coming along. Maybe we should leave a spot so that this site could have a battery put in the future when that would make sense. And we were looking at that in 2021. The IMPA board approved doing the battery in 2021, but we were only looking at kind of a smaller one, a 1 megawatt size battery at that point. We really didn't know much about batteries. They were still very relatively new. So we started with the design of a battery installation here, and then later on in that year, and early into 22, the prices spiked. If you look at a graph, it's very steep slope, and the prices were going to be very high, and it really just didn't make sense for us to do it. So we kind of pulled back, because we thought, this is probably an anomaly, because there was a supply problem with the battery lithium supply at that time, and then there was a huge demand that was coming for the EVs, so it really affected the market. We pulled back in 2022, but then as time went on, we were able to, I wouldn't say lucky, but we were right. And the prices did stabilize. So around in 2024, we went back ahead with the battery project. I went back to the board and said, we're ready to go with this again, but we don't want to just do a 1 megawatt size. We want to do a 6 megawatt size, because we still can fit that in the footprint that we left, but we can also get meaningful value from a 6 megawatt site, much more than we could a 1 megawatt site. So we went ahead with the larger size. It took a little bit over a year to develop, and then get this installation done. And I'm fast forwarding over all the things that all the guys that actually made this happen in the field had to work through to make it, and you'll hear a little bit more about that. But we also hit another road bump on the business side of, as soon as we started the design and trying to order the battery, we ordered the battery and the tariffs hit. So in early 2025, we're like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Because, the prices looked good. Now we're going to have these tariffs, and the tariffs kind of were doing this. So we didn't know how high are they going to go. So we keep looking at the numbers, because we only want to do things here that pencil out economically for us, because what we're here to deliver is low cost and reliable power supply and environmentally responsible for the members. So we wanted to keep with our mission. The economics were still there, even with the tariffs, even though they were a little bit, we lost some of the value, but there was still significant value and very good return on the investment to do this here, where we have savings on capacity and the transmission from coming into Richmond for our overall power supply for IMPA. And the good news is some of the tariffs have come back, so we're going to get some of that money back that we paid. We will get investment tax credit, federal, for this site too. So those also went to help with the cost. So with that, we were able to get this online. We wanted to get it online before the end of the year because with the IRS, if it's not on, if we would have lingered into January, we couldn't have tried to file for this 2025 tax credit. IMPA is tax exempt. So we still get the tax credit because of the rules from the Inflation Reduction Act, which allowed tax exempt entities like IMPA to get that money directly to us. So we didn't have to have any other parties involved, and we didn't have to share the tax credit with another party. When that money comes back, it works to lower rates for all of IMPA members. But the team worked very hard in December to get that on before the end of the year, and we're successful. And then we had the January cold snap this year, and it really proved and came in handy when in those early morning hours we could release the battery discharge when we were seeing the peak loads at that point. So that's my story on the battery. I think you'll hear a little bit more on the technical side from Chris Sanders, and I'll invite him up next. This is Chris Sanders, Vice President of Generation of IMPA. His department's the one that makes all this happen, along with some of our engineering. Chris?
Thanks, Jack. Thank you. This project, like Jack mentioned, started off a little over a year ago, almost two. We started looking at the prices back in the summer of 2024, saw that they were turning a little bit more favorable, and then started talking about what a site could look like. We had a lot of great partners. Something like this doesn't just happen in a vacuum. We worked with RP&L and the engineering to look at the interconnect into their system. Worked with the city of Richmond and the planning and zoning department to make sure we could get all the approvals that we needed. We kind of really started with all of our major procurement in late 2024, and then just kind of worked through the engineering and process of delivery through the latter part of the year. One of the interesting things was watching all the equipment come overseas and come through the Panama Canal, and that was something we don't usually get to do with the solar parks. Jack mentioned the solar parks. This is our largest single site. It's almost 15 megawatts here between Richmond 5 and 6. And it was really a perfect host site for the battery storage project. I do want to call out a few folks, in addition to who Jack mentioned, that helped really make this come together, along with the RP&L folks that we worked with. There's some folks kind of standing in the back. The IMPA solar team, they operate and maintain all this equipment that you see here. So I appreciate everything those guys do. And then a lot of folks here probably know Brian Markley. Brian, he's been running our combustion turbine plant over at Gates Road that Jack mentioned for the better part of 20 years. Back in the summer of 25, I asked him to take on a little bit of a new challenge and oversee the project management of all the site activities here at this site. So the way everything's put together and the way it went so seamlessly, really Brian is to thank for all that, and I really appreciate everything that he did to make the site come together. So Brian, thank you. So I'll give a little bit of an overview of some of the technical specs, and then we can talk more on the tour for anybody that's interested. But what you see here is a 6 megawatt site. There are 3 inverters. Each inverter has its own transformer. So the white container over there to my left is an inverter, and then obviously the green transformer here. Each inverter has 3 battery containers attached to it. So you'll see 2 of them back to back, and then one by itself. Each of those are connected to the inverter by DC into the inverter, which turns it from DC to AC. So the real business end of the project that's unique to anything that we've done before are the batteries themselves. The inverters and the transformers and all the medium voltage equipment that you drove by and walked by on your way in, those are pretty common to what we do for the solar parks. And we were really able to leverage all of our lessons learned over the last 10, 12 years that Jack mentioned to really pull all that together and have a good sound design for things. So each container, kind of starting from the bottom up, it has cells. There are 104 cells in a pack, and then there are 4 packs in a rack. and then there are 12 racks in a bank. Each container is a bank. So overall, there are almost 5,000 cells in each of the white containers that you see. And then, like I mentioned, there are three battery banks per inverter. Whenever we brought these in, it took some substantial trucking and lifting logistics to make that happen. Each one of the containers weighs about 95,000 pounds. They're only 20 feet long, but they're so heavy that whenever they pick them up from the outsides, they actually bow a little bit. And whenever you set them down, the middle touches down first, and then it relaxes down onto the engineered foundations that we've got. But overall, the project went very, very well. We started construction about this time last year in July of 25. Did commissioning on what felt like the coldest day I'd experienced in a long time, December 15th. It was -5 degrees, so a complete juxtaposition to what we've got here today. So it was a lot of fun, but a very challenging commissioning effort. But like Jack mentioned, overall we were able to commission it before the end of the year, get up to full output, and be able to cover those winter peaks that are so valuable to us and our members. But that's all I'll share for that. More technical detail if anyone wants it during the tour. But thank you, everyone.
When Chris was talking about packs and racks, I was kind of hearing a Dr. Seuss story being made. I wanted to mention one more thing, and Chris probably would say this on the tour, but we paid for a 6 megawatt battery, but when it tested out, we were actually achieving 6.9 megawatts, which maybe that doesn't sound like a lot to you, but dollars wise, it adds more to the payback for us. Thanks, Chris. And next, I'd like to ask Mayor of Richmond, Ron Oler, to come up and offer a few words.
325, Jack. So in 1980, I was working at the Big Blue Farm Store where you were working at Cox's. We're making $3.25 an hour. Times have changed. On Friday, for $20, I could fill up the car with gas, take myself and my girlfriend out to dinner, and have a really nice weekend. We can't do that with $20 anymore. But as you mentioned, Richmond has long been a city of first, and I truly appreciate IMPA's investment in Richmond. We had the first solar park that tracked the sun. That was a trial, so Richmond's a good trial size. And then we have the first battery farm here, and I appreciate that investment. And I know the history. I was on the board when we thought we were going to do it, and then COVID hit, and we couldn't do it because of finances. So the partnership with IMPA and all these solar parks, it makes it so easy. I don't know that Melissa and Valerie are going to speak, but if they would probably say, talking to developers and potential businesses, talking to them about where electricity comes from on a day like today where a third of our power is coming from the sun, that makes a lot of investors happy. People want to invest in a city that's doing good things. Getting power from the sun is hugely important, especially when it comes during the highest demand of the day, in the middle of the day in the peak. Hold down that coincident peak rate and keep our rates low. So IMPA investing in Richmond is huge. Appreciate it. Appreciate the trust in Richmond. Trusting us with the first tracking site, trusting us now with the first battery site, and I wish you and Richmond continued success.
Thank you. So when we are putting a location in like this, we have to make sure that the wires and the system can handle it, because you just can't. The system isn't necessarily designed to have power generated within it as a distribution system. So Richmond was a really good partner, Richmond Power and Light, because we have one circuit that one of the solar parks goes out, and then there's another circuit that the other solar park has to leave on, because there's too much power generated really in one place to try to send it through one line. That's kind of at a high level. So appreciate Richmond working with us, appreciate their engineers and their line department that actually had to do some upgrades on these lines for both of our projects. And now I'd like to introduce, he's one of my bosses, IMPA Board of Commissioner. He's also the treasurer of the IMPA board and the general manager and CEO of Richmond Power and Light. Is CEO the right title, or just general manager? And CEO, that's the first time I think I've seen that. But you have a great leader here for your utility. Tony Foster, if you'd come and offer a few words, appreciate it.
Thank you, Jack.
And just like on city council nights, I come up last, and you're all saying, Tony, make it quick. So I'll make it quick. But on this beautiful day, like Mayor Oler mentioned, we're standing in the solar park, so I'd be remiss to give you some data on how much these IMPA solar parks are generating. Today, before I left, I looked, and they were generating about 37 megawatts, and our load was about 106 megawatts. So just about 37% of our power is coming from solar today. I was talking with Chris, and he said they have some of the equipment offline today so that we can have a tour. So if that was online, we'd be well over 40% of our power coming from solar today. And like Mayor Oler said, it is a huge advantage for us, especially as an economic development tool. When we have new companies looking, talking to Valerie and Melissa, they want to know the type of power they're receiving. And in some cases, these, like Jack mentioned, these solar fields power some substations completely when the sun is shining. And so people are getting 100% renewable depending on the type of time of day. So it's really a great story to tell, and we appreciate IMPA's continued investment. IMPA is a great partner. Not only do they provide us with low-cost, reliable, environmentally friendly power, they're a partner when it comes to training, education, and giving us networking opportunities to work with other utilities, and that's something you just can't pay for. And we really like to take advantage of that and network with our other utilities. And again, a big thanks to IMPA and trusting us with the first battery in their system. I know we have a really good time watching this and seeing when it is discharging and just following that. I know Caleb Kettering, our SCADA operator, is here, and I know he's had a good time during this project. So we appreciate everything IMPA does, and appreciate the partnership, and glad that we could be here today on this beautiful sunny day. So I'll turn it back over to Jack.
So that will conclude, but we do appreciate Richmond being a great partner. We have 8 solar parks in Richmond, and we were able to come in and be transparent and find locations that actually worked with the communities. And if you look really out across the state and the country, there's a lot of pushback and negative on the solar, but it really depends on if you go in right and be open and find the right spots. And we appreciate Richmond working with us to do that, and with all of our solar and now the battery here in Richmond. So thank you, Richmond, and we'll now go into the ribbon cutting. Bryant?
Thank you to Jack and the rest of our speakers. As Tony mentioned, all the equipment here is powered off for the time being, just so that way everything can be safe here for us and allows you to get up close and personal to really see what all this equipment looks like and how it functions and operates. Valerie once point told me that it's always 75 and sunny in Richmond, so we'd like to turn all this on as soon as possible on a beautiful day like today. So in order to do that, we'd like to invite everyone up here, around here by the podium for a ribbon cutting. And then afterwards, we'll meet right over here by the white inverter and transformer here, and we can have our tour and Q&A afterwards. So now, if you please join me for ribbon cutting.
We're gonna do this on the count of 3. So big smile. Solar. Everybody ready? 1, 2, 3. Cut.
Nicely done.